Chris, would you like to ask him a couple questions?
Yeah. My first question would be, when's the first time you picked up an instrument?
I picked up a little steel my daddy bought at a pawn shop when I was 9 years old. We watched the old black and white TV Grand Ole Opry back in those days in the mid-50s. And steel guitar always just intrigued me and my dad, and so he stopped by one evening after work at a pawn shop and bought a little lap steel. And then I got a hold of a little bar and picks, and about 4 or 5 months later he sent me to a music school where they taught Hawaiian, and I took about 9 or 10 months Hawaiian lap steel. And then from there, after that, I got a Fender non-pedal double neck, then I got a Fender 1000, and after that I was hooked. My music teacher wanted me to, after a couple of years, talk to my dad about me taking up saxophone or piano, but I wouldn't hear of it. I already had the steel guitar bug. So after I was 12 years old, I just all I did was get home, do my homework, and stay in the back room and practice.
So when you first picked up your instrument, you were 9, but when's the first time you ever performed in front of a live audience?
It was a talent show in Montgomery when I was 11 or 12. I guess it must have been about 1,500 people. WBAM put it on, and I won first place, and that was the first time I'd been out in front of an audience. I played a couple of tunes, and it was a talent contest. And my uncle, Aubrey Simmons, my mother's younger brother, played guitar, and it was just he and I and the band, staff band. That was the first time I performed, and other than just playing around the house. And so
did you get nervous, or?
I was pretty nervous, as I remember. It's been so far back. It was in the mid-late 50s when that talent show was. And then when I was 14, 15, I couldn't get in bars. My dad could sneak me in some of the bars around my hometown, Pensacola, but I played around J. Florida and American Legion Hall's VFWs, square dances.
Okay. Now my last question for you is, out of all the performers that's inspired you over the years, name one living or dead that you really were inspired by.
Well, when I started playing, I got a hold of records back in those days. There's several guys. Bud Isaacs is really a legend, but Bud's still living. He lives out in Arizona. I listened to some of his albums, and some of the players in Nashville, Johnny Seibert, who played with Carl Smith, and my dad would lift the needle up and I would try to grab the intro or turnaround. But I guess the one that mostly inspired me would be Buddy Emmons. After I heard him, I was about 14. Everything I could get at the radio station that Buddy had put out. He had put out Four Wheel Drive and Cold Roll Steel and Raising the Dickens. He had worked with little Jimmy Dickens years before I made it to Nashville, and after I heard him, he was the most influential steel guitar player that I listened to, and just night and day I would get every record that they were going to discard at WPFA in Pensacola, and just about wear him out trying to learn from Buddy. And I got to meet him when I was about 15. So he's still living, and he's still my hero.
We got to take just to mention Bennett to mention the great John Huey, who was a good friend of Doug's, and I'm glad to say he was a good friend of mine. And we've got a thing on our website in memory of John Huey. Of course, there were a lot of great steel players, Hal Rugg that's gone on, and a lot of great steel players, but John was a mighty well-liked person.
John was a very good player. He treated me was so nice. I came to town and worked with, especially with Fair and Young. We did a lot of shows with Conway Twitty. We would open, and John had already played on several hit records, and there I was, a 23-year-old guy, you know, and come to town. He always was so nice to me. He was, as well as a great steel guitar player, he was a very nice man. John Huey was.
Well, Doug, I appreciate it. We better get on out to the studio.